Okay, here's what we're working on today. This is from Century Arms. It's called a Catamount Fury. This is the model Fury 1. They have a Fury 2 that has a magwell. All of that can be removed and done the same way. It's the same principle of this. But basically what we're doing today is I'm showing you how to convert one of these. It's pretty straightforward in concept. There are a few things that you will need. You'll need a Dremel tool and a drill to knock out the rivets on the lower section where the trigger guard goes. But basically, here's what you have to do. Normally from the factory, these Catamount Furies, they're designed with a special proprietary magazine. But the good news is that they made it just nice enough to where you can use a Saiga 12 mag. The problem is that if you insert a Saiga 12 mag, it won't click in. But with the adapter that I made, it allows you to use it. Now, I had to do a little trimming on mine. That's just a little work with a Dremel or a rasp or whatever you have on hand. But it seems to do good. I've not had a mag drop out, and I've not seen this tab bend yet. So that, by the way, the one I just pulled off was one from SGM, and they seem to feed remarkably well on these guns. Basically what I did is I took a piece of steel and put a set screw in it, screwed it in, and bent that tab down. That way it would allow the mags to rock in. I mean, literally, that's all the difference it takes to make this work. I mean, they made it just long enough to where a Saiga 12 mag would not fit from the factory. I guess that's a trademark issue or something like that. The other thing I was going to point out is on the receiver itself, you have to drill out the original rivets that come in on the trigger guard. There's one located right under here. There's going to be one located right under here as well. And the trigger guard itself needs to be removed. Now, I was kind of ghetto on mine. I know everybody's probably going to give me flack and haterade for this, but I just basically bent it up, and the trigger guard was so brittle it just literally broke at the base. And I left it like that and just made a little notch in the handguard, and it works great, and it keeps you from having to try to drill through hardened steel with tools that you have at your home, and it allowed me to do this without destroying the receiver and having to repaint everything. The other thing you have to do is you have to open up the area where the trigger group itself goes. Normally from the factory, it stops right about here because they really don't need it for the assembly they have. It moves the hammer and everything further backwards with the original Catamount Fury design. What I did is I basically took a Dremel tool and opened that and moved it forward. Now, on the trigger group itself, as I'm moving forward to show you that, I used a standard Tapco G2 trigger group. Now, there are a few things that I need to make you aware of. Number one, the way the Catamount Fury works is on the original trigger group, it has everything recessed backwards, as I said. Now, the problem with that is on the Catamount Fury, it's not going to work like this. It's set out this way. So what you're going to have to do, and it's not shown on this because I've not completed everything on my conversion, is you're going to have to basically make a tab and weld it onto this section and move it out right about to here. When you do that, it will interface with the AK style safety and allow everything to work properly. The other thing that I need to make you aware of is the hammer needs to be reprofiled because the hammer strikes at a much further forward angle than normal AKMs. So basically what I did is I took this and I changed the geometry backwards a little bit and polished everything up. Originally it came kind of up like this, so when you cut it back, what it does is it allows the hammer to strike the bolt properly. Otherwise, if you don't, it'll end up hitting it like this, and that's not good. It'll usually not push the firing pin all the way forward. The other thing is that the way the bolt hold open feature works on this is it's a little further back than most normal AKs on that area. So what I had to do is I had to file down this area with a Dremel with a sanding wheel. I cut that down a little bit at a time, checked everything, made sure it worked until I just took off enough material to make it work to where it would hit the firing pin itself. And everything would line up properly. Now, it will take you time to get this right. The other easier way, which I found out the hard way, is just to go ahead and line up and compare the two from the original hammer assembly. Now, this is the original Catamount Fury hammer. It will not work with the Tapco G2 trigger group. The sear in the back that allows it to reset doesn't touch, and it'll just go full auto if you try to do that. I would highly encourage you to do this properly with the complete TAPCO G2 fire control group. Other than that, it works great. Fires good. Does everything right. Now, the biggest and worst issue that I will tell people about on the Catamount Fury is the stock. Now, there are several ways that you can do this. Number one, you can cut these rivets off and you can put a standard AK trunnion on there. The problem, though, is that the way that this is designed is that those trunnion holes are in different locations than most other rear trunnions for AKs. You also have a much narrower trunnion than an AK, so you'll have to grind one or both sides to where it will fit within the steel receiver. My recommendation is not to worry about that. The stock that I'm using is just a standard Wasser 1063 stock. I've dyed it black. And what I did is I basically drilled and tapped a screw set up on there. Basically, well, not tapped. I just basically drilled a hole through it and put a standard wood screw through it. Now, I'm going to take this off just so you can see what needed to be done. Bear with me for one moment. I'm going to pause the video. Okay, I'm back with you. Basically, if you see right here, get this back in focus. I reshaped the end that goes into the receiver to where it will fit in the area and work properly. I've also put that screw through that area to where it will hold it properly. There's another portion that you need to make a relief cut at that's right here. That's to allow it to pass through the area where the screw goes for the trigger guard in the rear. Now, going back to the trigger guard, let me get this into view so you can see it. If you look back here, this is where the original trigger went on the Catamount Fury. What I had to do is I took a Dremel and I notched that area forward for the CSS trigger guard to work. Now, the other thing that you need to be made aware of is this one screw right here will pass through properly. You don't have to do anything with it. However, this one that's on the forward end of the gun will have to have a new hole drilled just behind it. Now, the good part is that if you're using the CSS trigger, it will cover up the hole and there will not be anything to worry about on there. The other thing is there is one other hole in the back. You can just reuse one of the access pins that came with the Catamount Fury. These are not standard these are not standard AK access pins. You will have to buy 2 AK access pins for the hammer and the trigger group in order to make this work properly. Other than that, it's pretty straightforward. Cut that area out, notch that area in the back, drill the other hole in the front, and put everything in like you'd normally do on a Saiga 12. Another thing that I was going to make you aware of, I forgot to say this in the video, is that the factory bolt hold open is garbage on this gun. Take the last round bolt hold open out and just put it to the side. It will not work very well with the Saiga magazines. Now, the bolt hold open feature will work properly without that part. You can push this up as you're pulling back the bolt carrier group, and it'll still hold the bolt fine without that part on it. I just need to make you aware that with the Saiga mags, you will have problems if you do not remove that part. Other than that, have fun with it. It'll run flawlessly with those additions, and if you have any questions, just feel free to respond to this YouTube video, and I'll be more than happy to help. Thank you.